We want a guaranteed £6 minimum for 8 hours piecework. Piecework.
Jack Dash, 25 years a docker, undisputed leader of the dock workers, and one of the most experienced and colourful public speakers the East End has ever produced. But it's more than a year now since Jack Dash retired from the docks. So, whatever happened to Jack Dash? And what's become of that famous flair for public speaking? Well, the answer is that Jack Dash is still at it.
As a matter of fact, in my industry, which I've just retired from, well, I've been a longshoreman for 25 years.
The difference is that Jack's audiences are no longer groups of dissatisfied dockers. He's swapped them for parties of well-heeled American tourists, because Jack Dash is training to be a tourist guide. His teacher is Freddie Brampton, 40 years in the business and London's top guide. The first stop, Traitor's Gate at the Tower of London.
That the intentions of William the Conqueror on the successful invasion of our country was to build a fortress. But of course, within the history of the Tower of London, it's been a prison and not a fortress in that sense. And there's no doubt about it, each stone, if it could talk, could tell us the most gruesome and very tragic and sad stories of the whole history of the Tower.
Jack Dash decided on a new career as a guide when he discovered that after 25 years as a militant docker, nobody seemed to want to employ him. But with more than 6 million tourists coming to Britain each year, Jack realised that this was one industry where he could exploit his skill as a public speaker. The London Tourist Board agreed and took him on as a trainee. But there's a lot of work in it. It'll take months of study and practical training before Jack gets his official guide's certificate. And he'll only get that if he passes his exams, the first exams he's ever taken in his life.
I knew I have to find an employer, I've got to live. Although I'd retired from DOCKLANDS, shifted me seat, and I know that I'm unemployable from my political and industrial point of view, apart from my age. Being a great lover of London, in fact, if you could use the term, I'm a London chauvinist in that sense.
It's very odd though, Jack, to see somebody like you taking American tourists around, particularly the Tower of London, which is after all the bastion of the autocratic rule of the monarchy, isn't it? I mean, don't you find that a bit odd?
Not in a sense, because after all there were many people, whether they were wrongfully imprisoned or rightly imprisoned, it doesn't matter. They were against the establishment. And I've been against the establishment ever since I was I could understand what life was all about. And I've been against the establishment, wanted to change the order of society and things in industry, politically and all kinds of things. So, no, and when I think of many of the people, some commoners have been in there, It's not just a question of royalty.
But are you going to bring politics into your guided tours?
No, I would never bring any politics into my guided tours, but if I get a political question, then out of courtesy to the person who's asking me, then I must give them a political answer. I mean, that's only fair, isn't it?
Do you expect any reactions from the people that you're giving the tours to, either if they know you in advance or when they find out that you're a militant?
Well, my experience in life, once people know me as a person and meet me not as I've been described by the press and the mass media, and they know me to be a warm human being, which I am, and I always give dignity and respect to human beings. If I disagree with them, that's another matter. But at least you can disagree with respect and give the other person dignity. And I think the reaction I've met with people, they all like me. And it's nice to be liked.
From the Tower of London, that great monument to the power of kings, it's a short coach ride to London's greatest monument to the power of the church, St Paul's Cathedral. But Jack Dash loves these old buildings because they're deeply rooted in the traditions of London, his city.
Friends, to me, the greatest jewel in London is St Paul's. And it's why? Because I don't think as a Londoner you can talk about London unless you talk about St Paul's as well. And it took 35 years to complete St Paul's as a cathedral. Now, even in those days, the establishment loved to cut wages in order to speed things up. And because in their opinions, Sir Christopher Wren was taking too long a time to build it, they cut his salary, which then was £200 per annum, £200 per year, to £100 a year, with the promise that on the completion of St Paul's, then he would get all back pay.
Outside St Paul's, there's a statue of Queen Anne. She gets a special mention in Jack's commentary.
Now, Queen Anne is interesting again, when you look back in history. In her day, they believed in productivity, because she was the mother of 17 kids. And she lost the whole of them 17 kids, unfortunately, because there was no child welfare in those days, and there wasn't the advance of medicine. And no doubt she would have blessed to be having a chance of having a pill.
But if Jack loves St Paul's, he's not so keen on the next tourist attraction, Fleet Street, because this is a place where Jack Dash has played his own part in history.
This street of newspapers, Fleet Street, in Dockland, amongst the longshoremen, because of our labour struggles, we refer to it as the street of liars, because we know what the press can do with truth.
But the truth about the new Jack Dash is that the success of his career depends on keeping his customers happy. Did you know that he has a very big reputation here as a militant in the dock industry?
I suspected as much when I heard him talk,
Why was that?
from what he said.
But you didn't object to it at all?
Well, maybe yes, maybe no.
Maybe yes, why?
Oh, I think these things go much further than we could go into right now.
Well, he doesn't bring anything politically into his tour, and I think that's important, the fact that he doesn't try to sway you one way or the other, and the fact that he has a background of such, it gives you another light as to the man's abilities and his thinking.
And if his customers have no complaints, it's probably the first time in his life that Jack's employers have been completely satisfied.
The tourism is changing. You're getting a lot of working class people coming over here from all over the world, and Jack's just the sort of fellow who can really get at them and give an interesting sideline to London and London's history, particularly in his own problems.
There's the lantern, there's the outer dome, and there's the drum.
In a few months, if all goes well for Jack Dash, he'll be a fully fledged professional guide. He'll certainly be different from all the other, more traditional guides. But isn't there a danger that too much contact with historic London may breed in him an affection for the social system on which it's been built?
The more I recite it, the more I talk about it, the more confirmed I've been correct in my opinions.
No chance you think you'll be corrupted by it all?
What can they corrupt me with? I'm 64 years of age. The only thing they can offer me is socialism. And then you've got to still go on fighting, because socialism has to be improved year by year.